welcome. We are going to begin. First, I need to read a statement. I'll read it to both of you. For personal reasons, Councilmember Moreau has recused himself from the process of interviewing, selecting, and appointing a member of the school board. So he won't be here tonight. All right, so we will begin. Welcome. 3-minute introduction. You can say anything you'd like about yourself. Ms. Connor will keep the time, and then we'll go down. We'll start with Vice Mayor. Down this way. 2 questions each. We'll go down, and then again, and then 3-minute closing.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Jen Moyers. I have been a resident of Manassas Park since Halloween of 2009. So we are coming up on about 16 years. I have 2 children that are in the Manassas Park school system. One is going to be a rising freshman over at Manassas Park High School, and the other will be a rising 6th grader at the middle school next year. I've spent the last 17 years of my professional career in HR and recruitment and leadership, all around in different functional areas that include anything from, again, recruitment to problem resolution to HR business partner, kind of really learning the ins and outs of compliance as it relates to the federal and the state level as well. And yeah, I'm excited to meet everybody today.
Thank you. Great, Vice Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jen, for putting your application forward to be part of our school board. Appreciate that. My question is, in reviewing your resume, I see that you have, as you pointed out, an extensive HR background. I mean, it's very, very impressive. One of the questions I have is, what recommendations would you make to the district or bring to the district with your HR hat on that would help the district bring about a diverse teaching staff? I mean, so that our teaching staff looks like the community that they teach.
The first thing about diversity that I learned a long time ago is that pardon me, a diverse group of individuals always brings through a more synergistic solution. Everybody is going to have different ways of solving problems. Everybody's going to have different ways of coming to conclusions on different aspects that you have, depending upon how you grew up and the situations that you've been through in the past. I think a lot of this, coming down to recruitment potentially of additional teachers in a diverse space is going to be dependent upon appealing to some of their situations that they've had in the past, or benefits, or a sense of community. Everybody's going to be different for what they're going to be looking for, in a school system, and I think that there are certain push buttons, if you will, that we can trigger as it relates to individual components of what diverse populations are looking for. I think Manassas Park as a whole has a very diverse student population from what I've seen over the years, and I think that there are a lot of teachers out there that have big hearts, if you will, that are kind of really wanting to engage students and bring them into education of excellence, if you will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. If faced with budget decisions, how would you determine where to make reductions while minimizing the impact on students and teachers?
Those are always really tough and emotional decisions. I think that the first thing that I have to say is those kinds of decisions are going to have to be data driven. It's not something where you can go and say, everybody's going to have a different opinion of where they can cut some of the funds. I think prioritization of those funds, depending upon if we're looking at extracurricular activities or what's most important to the district is going to be most important to the school board to kind of prioritize. I also think that there's value in looking at how technology can enable and find efficiencies within the system as well. Sometimes things that you're doing on a manual basis can be automated or can be helped along by some of the automation tools that are out there, again, to find efficiencies within the system as well.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you stated, how long have you lived in Manassas Park?
Halloween 2009.
2009, okay. So my first question is, as a member of the school board, how would you improve student morale or school spirit? Because it's kind of low right now.
I think that the district is moving in the right place. I think that specific to the parents, with the reestablishment of the PTO, again, I think the engagement level is moving in the right direction. I just don't think it's necessarily there yet. So I think some of it is supporting the family structure that is there. I think we have two very distinct, we'll call it parts to Manassas Park, if you will. And I think that kind of looking at it from the perspective that we have to have, events for, the community on both sides, something that's going to have a broad appeal to everybody, things that can be easy to get to, things that can be, things that can be, that are within the budget as well. I think that there's a lot that we can do that I think can be kind of reimagined. So we can get some of that engagement that we're looking for to be able to build some of that morale.
Do you think that there should be a space in the school board to create a budget for the PTSO, or do you think that should be just plainly fundraising coming from that?
That's a great question. As it stands now, which model is the district using?
I'm not sure, but from what I understand is that they have to raise all the funds when it comes to doing activities with the schools and the teachers and the students.
And I know that's got to be hard, again, kind of getting that kicked off the ground, if you will. So I think that I have kind of thought a little bit about maybe doing kind of a graduated reduction of funds, maybe like having as the fundraising gets to be to a point where it can sustain the entire PTSO, then it can continue on in that method. But maybe in the beginning there could be, if there are extra funds or if there are extra things that we could do to kind of add into it to kind of help it get off of the ground, then again it can be kind of reduced as it gets to a point where the fundraising can then take fully over from the budget piece of it.
Thank you.
I'm Ms. Myers. Ms. Myers, I appreciate it. Appreciate you making the application. The question I have is, how would you do outreach to, let's say if you have a challenge or the math scores at one time were really low in the middle school and they kind of fluctuate between sometimes different schools. How would you do outreach to get those, to concentrate on certain areas where there is a challenge or to get resources in to improve the scoring in some of those subjects?
Outreach as it relates to the teachers and bringing in extra resources?
Yeah, a mixture of any, whether it be to the student or the parent or the teacher. What would your strategy be to look at that?
Collaboration is going to be key here, I think. I think there's a lot of parents and parents out there that don't have any idea what the school board does or how they can help with some of the things as well, right? I think there is something to be said for having school board members at some of the events potentially that the PTSO have as well, to really kind of get that engagement going or get that relationship built. Right. I do think that there potentially is some synergy that could be used with Manassas City Schools, maybe even Prince William County Schools, to have shared resources as well. So that's just something that we could potentially, go down that path as well. There are a lot of tutoring, places in the area. Mathnasium is where my child actually goes for a couple of days a week. They have been more than willing to really kind of talk a little bit about potentially having kind of pro bono, services as well. So there's, I think, a lot that we could do, maybe even with some of the businesses in the area, to be able to bring some of that academic, institutions here as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. So as a school board member, what would be your top 2 priorities for Manassas Park City Schools?
One of my top priorities would definitely have to be the engagement of the students. I think that there is a lot of students kind of across the board that are just not engaged in the school at all. I think that there are students that just go to school and come home. They don't think about any of the extracurricular activities, the sports programs, anything that they can do to kind of be a better member of the community kind of in Manassas Park. So one of my biggest thought processes is how can we get people to come out? How can we get them to really kind of feel like they're a part of an organization or a part of the community as a whole? The more that you feel a part of a community, the more that you're going to do for that community, right? I think that there's kind of, again, that synergistic relationship there. My apologies. I think that the second thing that I kind of look at is going to be, the absenteeism rate as well. I know that is a huge thing since COVID, as people are kind of moving in and out of school districts, homeschooling, and then, people obviously, moving around as well. The absenteeism rate, I think, is one of the things that we can absolutely kind of look at it from a data-driven standpoint to kind of bring that rate down, and in turn bring all of the other, rates and the school math scores and all of those things kind of up. The more that you're at school, the more you're going to learn, the more that you're going to internalize some of the things that are being taught in the classroom.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's me again. For 4 years, since I was elected to the city council, Manassas Park was one of the few cities in Northern Virginia to fly the progressive pride flag at all of our official flagpoles in the city. I think there's 6 of them. How do you feel, or do you support, or what do you think about the concept of the school district or the school division adopting a similar policy, especially given the fact that LGBT youth have a higher incidence of suicide, higher incidence of drug and other kinds of addictions, to show them that we support them and that there's a community of support here in Manassas Park? What are your thoughts about that?
I think the more positive experience and the more positive culture we can have at the schools, the more that they are going to feel supported, right, at those schools. Right. It's not necessarily just about the academic performance of the students. In my personal opinion, it is also about the non-academic, factors as well, and understanding how those non-academic factors really do influence the academic factors as well. I think I said that right. So I think that there is something to be said for, positive reinforcement in a positive environment, very inclusive environment, so that they feel that they have a safe space to go and talk to somebody. They have a safe space to, really have a voice and, in the system as well, to your point. If they feel that they don't have anywhere to go to, right. Those rates of, suicide other and other things can definitely skyrocket. So I think that there's something to be said for kind of having, the leadership kind of educated on how to be able to kind of welcome in some of those students who may be a little bit apprehensive to kind of approach somebody as well. Some people, some students, especially students that are, middle school age and potentially even high school age, they don't want to talk to somebody until they know that somebody's on their side. So be able to educate some of the educators that are there to understand how the emotional impacts of that is going to affect somebody is I think a huge deal as well. So I'm a huge proponent of being able to have that inclusive environment where they feel that they are supported, and in turn, would be doing better at their schoolwork as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
What policies would you prioritize to support safety and security across the school division?
Safety and security. My apologies. Getting over a cold. I mean, as far as safety and security, I think Manassas Park does a pretty good job. I know in years past, there have been reports of, gang activity in the high school and a few other things, around, the school system as well. I think that there have been steps that have been taken to have, on-site safety officers, I believe they're called at the schools these days, and a presence where the students understand that the violence is not tolerated, and it is this is an environment of learning and those kinds of things. I think that there is I haven't seen anything having to do with extensive police activity. So I at this point I would say I would stick with the status quo at the moment for what is currently being done, because I think it is working.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, extracurricular activities are underfunded. How would you, as a school board member, make that a priority?
They are very underfunded. I totally agree. I think that is part of the problem, that we don't have the participation that we need. Specific to, like, my daughter did middle school cheerleading. And it was interesting to see, the participation on the football team and the basketball team, and both the boys and girls sports as well. So there are, I think that there's a lot more that could be done in terms of sponsorship, with the businesses in the area. Maybe there could be, raffles that could be done. Maybe there could be, some sort of, team nights like the PTSO is doing, right? So come support XYZ sport, girls, boys, whatever it is, and that way we can, raise money for uniforms, for, sending people to camps, whatever it might be. But I think that there definitely are ways that we can kind of insert some of the community level, relationships that we have, right, to be able to get more money for the sports than that, and then they in turn can, feel supported throughout the school system as well.
And do you believe that will be something that the school board would intake, or would that be something that you would just kind of like put off so that other, like the PTSO could take care of, or maybe, like you said, volunteerism? But my question is, would that be something that the actual school board would actually go out and do? Would they be hands-on with that, with those activities?
It depends on to be honest, it would depend on the priorities of the city. I mean, if there was bandwidth, 100%. I personally would volunteer to go out and get businesses to kind of help support the school systems. If it was something that we didn't have the bandwidth for, then of course we could, do something jointly with the PTSO. I don't believe that it's a one or the other situation. I think it's kind of depending upon who's willing to do, who's willing to actually go and do the work. And then as well being able to kind of looking at it from some of the donations, if you will, or the sponsorships that we would kind of come into play as well. So I think that that's kind of a variable depending upon a lot of factors.
Thank you.
The question I have is, what are the pros and cons versus an elected or a appointed school board, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man.
It's not your question, it's just whatever, because there's positives of both, but what's your thoughts on it?
I don't know if I have a whole lot of positives or negatives about both. I think that, being on the school board is something that is a privilege, whether you're elected or whether you're appointed. I think that, there is something to be said about both, as you said, right? Positives and negatives about both. But I think that if you have a passion for making sure that education is available and is, continuously improving in the area that you're in, I don't necessarily think that there is a lot different about the intent, right? Versus somebody saying, you would be good for this or you wouldn't be good for this, right? So it's, I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think that there is, I personally don't see a whole lot of difference.
Thank you.
So how do you view the role of the school board in setting policy versus managing operations?
Managing operations, I don't necessarily think is for the school board. I think that is more done on the operational level as it relates to the principals and the vice principals and all of the other administration kind of at the schools. I think it's the school board's policy to set policies, the school board's function to set the policy and to be able to help to enforce it if need be, as any sort of issues arise for problem resolution. But on a day-to-day basis, the enforcement and the expectation should be going down to the functional levels.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So would you like to give a 3-minute closing statement?
I just want to thank everybody for their time. I know that, I said I have an extensive HR background, but not a whole lot of education, but it is something I am interested in. As I said, having the children that I do, one is on an IEP and has a SPED background and the other does not. So I think I have a kind of a unique perspective of having 2 kids going through our school system in slightly different ways that could prove beneficial to the entire department as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out. Just to let you know, and all 3 of you, the public hearing will be on May 6th. So that is an open meeting of ours. And in the beginning, anyone you have to speak on your behalf can come out and do that. It's just for the public to give their input on the candidates.
Sure.
And then we will appoint on May 13th.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you.
good night. Would you like to start?
I'm ready. You
Okay,
guys are?
cool, we are.
We are ready.
Just change the name tag.
Okay.
You guys have name tags tonight. And you're welcome to stay, or you don't have to, it's totally up to you. Hi, welcome. Would you like to begin with the opening statement?
Grab my tea, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yep, take your
I knew I
time.
was forgetting something. I don't want to yawn on you guys, make it seem like I'm not interested. I promise. Okay.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Ellen Slobodnik, and this is, I'm looking for reappointment for my 2nd term on the school board. I've been serving for the past 3 years, and I really, really enjoyed my experience. I actually have my old questions from the last time I came through, and I did a deep dive to kind of do some reflection, because I'm very big on reflection. And so I wanted to kind of point out some things that I wanted to do, and I wanted to give you progress on that, because I think that's important. So when I was appointed in 2022, you guys asked to provide top 3 priorities. And so one of them was cultivating a committed professionals invested in the school system. And so something that I think the board has done a really good job, as well as working with the school staff, is approving budgets and amendments to increase the salary for the staff. We've also supported the superintendent in her plans to create non-traditional pathways. For example, we've had a lot of substitutes now become instructional assistants, and those people have the opportunities to get subsidizing for certification to become teachers. So I think we've made a lot of progress with that. I also wanted to improve the professional learning plan. So as an educator myself, I always advocate for more time for professional development for teachers on the school calendar. That is something that we've done in my past 3 years that I've been in that. My last priority that I wanted to do was increase the engagement of the community. I know the past candidate talked about that. The PTSO has been reinstated. It is still new, and I think there's still a lot of work with that, but that is something that we made it a point to make sure it comes back. We've approved the budget for more attendance resources to get those kids coming into school to help with their absenteeism rate. We've also approved the budget for a lot of mental health resources to really help the students and the school community. And I've personally attended events such as SEL nights, choir assessments, graduation, and sporting events. So just wanted to let you guys know those are still my top 3 priorities, and I'm looking forward to continue that.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll start down with Councilmember Cyberling.
Welcome, Ellen. Nice to see you again. What's your approach to evaluating and prioritizing school spending?
Whenever you think about the school or budgeting, you kind of have to keep in mind the mission and vision, or in our case, the strategic plan of the school system. In the strategic plan, the one that's currently in place was done with the community. So we took the community input and we created some pillars that we wanted to really focus on. And so whenever we keep that in mind, you want to think about the students, you want to think about the staff, but also where do we as a school system want to go. So I always keep that in the back of my mind. We have 3 key pillars. They're reimagining the school experience, building community and connection, and creating safe spaces. And so the budget should always kind of reflect that, or any decision that we make in that regard should really, really reflect that. Also, you want to get feedback from the community. You want to see what the needs are for the students and the staff. But again, having that bigger vision in mind is really important.
Thank you.
Thank you again for reapplying, and in your opening, you basically answered both my first question. So I'm just going to ask the second question I asked the last candidate regarding an elected or a appointed school board. What are pros and cons, and what do you believe? What are your thoughts on it?
My number one goal for either process, right, there's pros and cons to both, is that you get really dedicated people willing to come forward to serve their community. So whatever process it is, that should be the end result of that. I'm honest, I'm an honest person. My personal opinion is appointed. I think just with this community, right? If you were to take this out of the community and put in a bigger one, then maybe elected might be more beneficial. But here we are a smaller community. There's 3 open slots and only 3 people applied. And so I worry that maybe the elected for this specific community might be another further deterrent. If we were a larger community, say Prince William, Fairfax, things like that, then I think elected is more appropriate for that, but I'm keeping our community in mind. Again, there's pros and cons, and the end result is what's best for the students, what's best for the community, what's best for the school system. But here, I like appointed. That's something I don't know if I would be able to go through the election process personally, but that weeds me out, and that is what it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
School pride is missing in Manassas Park schools. How would you work this time around on creating a better sense of pride in students and parents?
Yeah, it goes back to the strategic plan, right? I think we really acknowledge that we need to reimagine the school experience and make it better for the students. So increasing that communication, increasing the engagement with the families is important, to your point. Some things I think about initially is if they're not really getting involved, then what's preventing them from getting involved? And so having those conversations, listening to the feedback for the community, and then tackling it from there. A lot of our students are still suffering from mental health. And so we did budget and approve the budget for some mental health resources, so you would hope that that would help with that. I also think that we are increasing our CTE programs, so we are trying to bring across more programs that the students want to see. We're working on the Aviation Academy. We're working on the nursing program and the medical certification process, and so I think they may not be engaged in after-school activities, but they might be getting more engaged in more career technical education CTE programs. Because some of our students are working after school too, so we have to be realistic about what the students can and can't do with their time. Because a lot of our students do work to help support their families, and so maybe they have pride during the day, but to your point, how can we tap that? What can we do during the school day? I want to give a shout out. Our superintendent does superintendent spotlights every meeting, so it's always great to hear what all the great students and teachers are doing, and so I would love for that to grow. I would love for more people to come see that, but I do think we're on the right path. There's always work to be done, but I do think we're trying. No, thank you.
What was your most rewarding experience over this last term?
Honestly, it's so this will be my fourth or fifth year living in Manassas Park, and I moved here from a different state. I moved for family reasons, and I didn't know anyone except for the person I moved in with. And so, being on the school board has introduced me to great people, great residents in the city, but it's also allowed me to see other residents through the school community without having worked in it. As much as I love Manassas Park, I've never lived and worked in the same place, so it's cool to live here and meet the students, meet the parents, but not be in the day-to-day with the school. So I really do honestly just love getting to know the community and helping support them as much as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ellen. Thank you for reapplying. I
course.
appreciate your presence here this evening. I'd like to do just the first half of a SWOT analysis. Can you give, in your estimation, what are some of the strengths of the division and what are some of the weaknesses?
So I think I wrote down some academic achievements I was going to talk about in my closing, but I'll talk about them now. We have declined the absenteeism rate. It went from 33.2 to 20.5% this past year. So we are working really, really hard and that's across the division, not just one school, that's all four. So I think that we are making gains. Our graduation rate went up 7%, which then also means our dropout rate did decrease. So again, we're making those gains. I still think we have a lot of work to do, and I would love to continue to be a part of that. I think Dr. Saunders is relatively new. She's been here since I've been here, and so I think she has a plan. We just did the strategic plan a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. That was in 2023, and so I think we're seeing the change. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be fast, but we are working towards it, and I'm really, really proud of all the work that we've done.
So any weaknesses that you'd like to highlight?
I think I kind of highlighted my priorities. I'll go back over them. I do still think that there's room to increase the salaries for teachers. We are still below our neighboring districts. Again, we're a smaller community, so our budget is not unlimited, as you guys all know. You're in charge of the budget as well, but that definitely is something that we continue to grow on. Mm-hmm. How do we support those teachers and getting them to stay? I think we've seen a lot of less turnaround these past couple of years, but we still want to decrease that as much as we can and get more teachers willing to come in to increase the diversity of our teaching staff. And again, we've kind of been talking about the engagement of community. I think that's still a weakness. Again, maybe doing a cultural needs assessment of the community to see what else they need from us. How can we support them during the school day, not necessarily after the school day, or vice versa. I think those are still kind of our three weaknesses, which is why I wanted to continue those as my three priorities.
Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
So how can the school board ensure transparency and meaningful communication with the students, the parents, the community?
It's a great question. Something that we are looking to, and I would love to see change is, as you guys know in the governing body, sometimes we ask these questions offline, and so we want to do a better job of kind of sharing those questions that we're asking with the staff and sharing the responses so that they know that we're not just showing up for a meeting and leaving, right? There's a lot more work behind it. We can always increase our presence at events. I know I could attend as much as I can, but I could always do more. And I think we could probably do more events during the day. I know the communities, the schools are having a conversation with coffee or something like that event with local businesses. And I'm trying to figure out on my personal schedule if I can be there, but just things like that, I think we could always do a better job of showing up. And to add to that, maybe we could do some more events where it's just the school board. So I know I try to go to the farmer's market. I could do a better job of saying, like, we just got some new gear. You guys are wearing some great city council swag. Making people see that I'm wearing that in the community, and then maybe they'll be more likely to approach me, because right now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, oh, I'm just a community member, but maybe advertising, hey, I'm on the school board, I'm here, I'm approachable, I think could help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have another question. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
You're so easy. Wait, okay, so how would you measure if the policies implemented by the school board are working or not?
So the policies that we implement always kind of have to align with Virginia Department of Education. We can't just make up policies on our own, but everything should be data driven, and everything, like I've been saying, should be going back to the school's strategic plan and the school's mission, the school system's mission and vision. And so again, on my notes, I kind of wrote down the different pillars that I talked about, and I wrote our initiatives, and I just wrote some data points. And so I think always going back to the data. So going back to reimagining the school experience, right? We've continued to expand our CTE program. So that's what we want to do. What policies are we adding? How are we supporting it budget-wise to continue that? We've added two student school board members, and so getting those students involved in a different way. Building community and connection, right? One of our things that we wanted to do was develop parent involvement program. The PTSO has since been reinstated. So whatever initiative that we're putting, we should have an action to kind of mirror it, to your point. Could we do a better job of advertising that, maybe posting on our website? Absolutely, because I think that piece is missing. So I'm loving this time to advertise the great work that we're doing as a school board. And the last one, we wanted to create safe spaces. That was our last pillar. One of those initiatives was supporting school resource officers. We now have a school resource officer at every single campus. So just, we have the pillars, we have the initiatives, and we are taking actions, but we could be way more transparent about them, and that way everyone knows.
Do you think, I don't know if you guys do, but do you guys survey kids, the students, to see if those policies that you guys are implementing are actually working for their morale or their spirit? Sometimes I think that when things change, I don't think us as adults understand if that's been a positive impact or a negative impact on the students. Do you guys measure that or survey that?
Yeah, I know we do a community survey, but it is open to the whole community, and we like to desegregate versus staff members, parents, and students. Students do answer it the least, to your credit, but that's one of the reasons why we've added 2 student school board members, so that they can share. We like to get their opinions on policies when we discuss them. Not to say that they speak for every single student, but at least we're getting that representation. And our hope is that they're in the schools during the day and really asking their peers, how do you feel about this? What can I share? We have been getting more and more, and again, this is a new initiative, so I think over time it'll continue to grow. But we could definitely look into doing some more student-friendly surveys, because sometimes those surveys for the parents are a little bit more wordy and not necessarily student-friendly.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Great question.
How would you balance FTE consolidation with declining enrollment?
So right now, we do have really tiny, we have great class sizes. I think that's important, and when you start to increase the class sizes, you could run the risk of losing staff members, right? Because full-time teachers or full-time educators want to have smaller class sizes, they can make a difference. Now, as I've advocated for in our school board meetings, those, even though our population, our general population is decreasing, our high needs population is increasing. And what I mean by high needs is our students with special disabilities, English language learners, and those economically disadvantaged. And so you can always look at decreasing the amount of staff, but then are we really doing those kids a great service? Because those students are the one that needs the most resources. So yes, we recognize that our student population overall is decreasing, but if you look at those other populations, those are increasing. So I think kind of staying the course that we're at is the best. But if it's what we had to do, then we would definitely, again, going back to the strategic plan, getting input from the community, those types of things. But I will use this time to advocate for all the resources for those populations because they are high needs and they need the most support. As an educator, that's how I feel very strongly, which is why I got on the school board in the first place.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm going to ask the same question I asked the other candidate, Ellen,
Okay.
and that's dealing with flying the progressive LGBT flag during the month of June at the school divisions. What your thoughts were about that, to show support to the LGBT students that have, like we said, higher suicide rates and drug use and things of that nature, to show them that the community supports them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think school culture, is one of the most important things. If a student does not feel safe or welcome in their community or in their school, they're not going to come to school and they're not going to learn. So that is the first thing that every school should prioritize is the culture. There are various clubs that we could bring. I'm not sure if they're in the schools, but there's things like No Place for Hate. Sometimes there's ally clubs, and so making sure that those are established as well to provide support for those students. We also, our school system does a really good job of doing social emotional learning and bullying prevention. We get a presentation on that every year from our counselors, and our bullying rates have decreased. I think we're really working towards building a really welcoming community within the schools where all the students are empathetic towards each other and just care about each other. We also, again, passed in our budget to pay for Care Solace, which is a free mental health resource at 24/7 for the community. So if a student is ever not feeling welcome or having those suicidal thoughts, that's a resource that they can go to, and those are professionals that will help them. To specifically answer your question, we would definitely have to look at the Virginia Department of Education policies, and we do have to align them. I'm not as familiar with that one, I'm not going to lie, but if that is a policy, then how can we adapt it? We don't have to follow it word for word, but we can adapt it to best fit our community, but we still have to be aligned with their policy. So I would need to do a little bit more deep dive into that specific policy. But I want to go back to saying that a welcoming community is the absolute most important. Again, if a student does not feel welcome, they're not going to learn.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Great, thank you. Would you like to give a closing statement?
Absolutely. I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity, and again, thank you for the first time around. I've had a great experience. I think one of my favorite things that I didn't anticipate about being on the school board is being exposed to different perspectives. As an educator, I have a great knowledge of education, how it works, but being on the school board allows me to work with parents and students, and so kind of learning their perspective from a different lens, I think it just kind of opens up my eye. I've really, really learned a lot. I think I've highlighted some great things that we're doing as a school system and as a school board, but I definitely acknowledge that there's always more work to be done, and that's something that I want to continue to work towards. It's a great community here. I'm so thankful to be here, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity. And just thank you guys again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming out.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay or free to go. Thanks. All right. Dr. Jones, whenever you're ready. We're kind of rolling through this. You're welcome, Michael.
I know, we'll be out by 8.
Well, you just jinxed it.
No, we'll be out by 8.
He's not going to ask questions.
You got
Take a
18
long
minutes.
time.
Not yet. 1 minute.
All right. Would you like to do, for personal reasons, Councilmember Moreau has recused himself from the process of interviewing, selecting, and appointing a member of the school board. So he's not here tonight. All right. 3-minute introduction.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Shantae Jones, and I am seeking reappointment to the school board. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Serving on the school board over the past 4 years, I've had the 4-year opportunity, has been a deeply rewarding experience, and I remain committed to advancing the success and the well-being of all of our students. I'm proud of the progress we've made in areas like increasing the graduation rate and seeing the chronic absentee numbers drop. And so that shows that the efforts to reengage students and families are definitely working. And I recognize there's more work ahead. These improvements reflect the dedication of our educators, our staff, and the community, and they reinforce my desire to continue with this work. And I'm seeking reappointment because I would bring not only continuity and institutional knowledge, but I'm also committed to pushing even further to ensure every student has the opportunity to succeed. So I'm excited about the opportunity to continue serving and to help guide our district through the challenges and opportunities of the next 3 years.
Thank you so much. Vice Mayor, we'll start with you.
Appreciate it. Good evening, Dr. Jones. It's good. I appreciate that you're reapplying for the position on the school board. Excited to see that. I learned something tonight, and I'd like to just follow up with a question on that. And maybe it is or is not true, but as I understand from the conversation tonight, that the PTO is not funded by the school division, the PTO.
No, it is not.
It is not, okay. And I mean, they're fledgling. We haven't had one for several years, and I'm really appreciative that they started up. And I know Councilmember Amaya had a lot to do with that. I would hope that the division would see fit, especially since it's a fledgling organization, and I've gone to a couple of their events, that some money could be carved out to help them. And maybe in a few years they won't need the help, and they'll be up and running and doing their thing and raising money and things of that nature. But as they get started, so I just wanted to know what your thoughts were as far as the PTO and the budget in the school division.
Yeah, I am not 100% familiar with. I know there's a difference between the PTA and a PTO or PTSO, and so I'm not 100% sure of what that difference is. I think one is funded by schools and school boards, and the other is strictly a teacher or a parent organization.
Gotcha.
And so understanding the difference between the two,
Yes.
I think would help with that. But yes, I feel like if there were some money in the budget that could be allocated to the PTSO, then definitely yes, I would be on board with that. And again, like if there were something where it was like a let's help get you started, like you're saying, and then
Yes, yes, some kind of seed money
Yeah.
type stuff. Appreciate that answer. Thank you.
What was your most rewarding experience over this past term?
Let's see. I'd say the first one, I think during my tenure on the board is when we started having the student school board representatives. And so that has been a rewarding experience. I was able, I think the very first year we have just one, or I think we just had one for the first time, but having that student to actually go through his junior year and his senior year, and then be able to, I did his exit interview when he was done, and just to get feedback from him to hear, what worked well, what didn't, what we can do to make this a, better position or to make better use of the students. And so to be able to do that exit interview, to sit with him and to give that information to the superintendent so that she can kind of create a new and improved student rep school board position. I think that has been one of the most rewarding things for me.
That's great. Thank you.
Based on your answer to her question, what was the feedback you received from that student?
He enjoyed his time on the board. He felt like there could have been more, more time for the students to just talk and not just to give kind of reports of what was going on or the events that were going on in the school, but actually to be part of the school board in the meetings, and understanding that he was not able to make decisions or anything like that, but just kind of to understand more what was going on. He also had said that he enjoyed going to the Virginia School Board Association conference to do the student work there, and then noticing that there were some difference between things that folks were doing in other districts and what we're doing, and he brought some of those ideas back as well. But he had also mentioned maybe doing, having those reps go to the elementary schools because we don't hear their voices. We hear from, the middle school and the high school voices, but not necessarily the elementary school voices. So he had an idea to be able to go down to Cougar and to MPE to kind of get a feeling for what those students, what's important to them. It might be, we don't want mashed potatoes 2 times a week, but at least somebody, knows that and they're hearing that.
And based on that experience and that intern that he gave you, was it something that the school board would kind of grow or implement a little further so more students can get the experience that he received?
I think maybe not the school board. I know Dr. Saunders has taken that on, and she and our Ms. Delorier are kind of working with those student representatives, and so they're working to kind of build up the program, I guess.
Engagement, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for reapplying. And I'm looking at your resume. It's very impressive, every area of experience. So the only thing I'm going to ask you is just the question I asked, the second question I asked the first candidate and the second one. What is your position or your thoughts about an appointed school board or an elected school board, pros and cons, or what's your thoughts about it?
I enjoy, of course, for selfish reasons, the appointment of school board. I am a federal employee, and so otherwise I may not have been able to do an election, to be on the school board. So selfishly, I enjoy the appointment. And I also think with those of us that are appointed, I know like we all have like this, we all have the same motive, right? We're all here for the students, for the families, for the community. Nobody has any, grandiose ambitions of, let me start here and work my way up to become the president of the United States. Like there's no like political gain that anyone has that's on the school board. And
That's from city council right here.
It's just
So it makes us, work better together, and we all know that we're there for the same purpose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Shantae. Good to see you. As a school board member, what are your top 2 priorities for Manassas Park City Schools?
One would definitely be getting more students interested and enrolled in the governor's school. I sit on the board for the governor's school and know that Manassas Park does not have many. We have very few students that are a part of governor's school, and I've seen the work that those students do. I've seen the projects that they do. I'm able to go up there. I'm able to talk to the director over there, and it's an amazing program, and we're putting money into it, and so I feel like our students need to be able to participate. So that's one of the priorities. And then my other would definitely be to continue with growing the staff and retaining the staff to make sure that we have the right staff in positions. I know we were, I think because of some of the Virginia standards that were coming down and initiatives that were coming down, we're able to get more reading specialists, I believe it is, and more English language learner teachers. And so to be able to get and retain those staff where it's not just an initiative that came down and it was, a mandate that was funded, but that we just have those teachers on staff for our community.
Is it my turn? It's gone so quick.
Good question.
Okay. It's the question I've been asking the other 2 candidates as well, and dealing with the pride flag that we fly here at City Hall in the month of June at all of our official flagpoles. Just your thoughts about the school division doing something similar to that, maybe at the high school and the middle school.
Yeah, I echo what Ms. Slobodnik said about just making sure with Virginia Department of Education that is something that is, I guess, allowable
Yes.
to do. But I would support that. We know that, your environment is, once you're comfortable in your environment, that's where you can learn, that's where you can thrive, and that's where you can grow. And so if you are comfortable, if students are comfortable in their environment, we want them to know you are welcome, you are included. Just come as who you are. I think my only thing would just be to make sure we, know who's going to educate the uneducated just about the topic, just to make sure that, there's no hate or anything coming from these different places, but just to make sure that everyone understands the purpose and to understand that it is part of the equity and the inclusion piece of the district.
Good point. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Jones.
What was something eye-opening that you experienced? Something you never saw coming?
That I not see coming? That's a good question. I would say, I think it was last year when I think the governor's budget came out a little late, where the numbers were wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
I remember.
That
I
it was
remember
very
that.
Say no more.
eye-opening.
Got it.
Something that I never thought that I would experience, but you know, the executive team handled it with grace, worked through it, and you know, made the changes that needed to be made. I think they had to submit the budget and represent everything, but yeah, that was something very interesting, something eye-opening. Thought I'd never see.
Thank you.
Well, hold on, where was my question? Okay. How would you ensure that students succeed? Give me one example.
To ensure students succeed. I think as I mentioned in another question, just the environment, right? It all starts with your environment. How do I feel when I walk into the school, right? Like, is it well lit? Do I feel safe? All those things have to be in place before you can even start to learn, before you can start to succeed. And so making sure that, you know, we are making sure that the students feel safe. I think what was it? What is the pyramid? I forget. But that you have to make sure that those needs are met before you can get to that, you know, Bloom's taxonomy of questions. You just have to make sure those basic needs are met first. And so if we're making sure that our students are safe, that they have, you know, the basic needs, that the teachers are there, that they're prepared, then I think, you know, from that, definitely the students will succeed. They just have to know that you're there, that you care, and that you'll be there for them.
Awesome, thank you.
I don't have another question. Thank you, though.
Kind of going back and forth between a few questions. I kind of want to just highlight your experience a little bit, so I want to talk about that. How has your personal or professional background prepared you for this role?
Well, I've been in education for 23 years. I've done a lot in education. Started off as a third grade teacher, went back to school because I wanted to become an administrator, so did that, and was an assistant principal for a little while, and then got into early childhood, and so was the education manager at a Head Start program. And so I was in charge of the teachers, the substitutes, the whole education division, the budget for the education division, and also worked with, since we were part of Fairfax County, worked with their board over there, their early childhood folks over there, to make sure that we were all aligned with everything they had going on. Still in education, went to DC, to the State Department of Education, and did a lot of early childhood work there and professional development. Somebody found out that I had an elementary background, and they moved me over to the elementary secondary division to help with the rollout of the park the testing, the park standards and the Common Core state standards, so to be able to help with that. And so then from there, I always said, when I forget what it's like to be in the school, it's time for me to go back. So I went to DC Public Schools because that's where my heart was, in the classroom, and I wanted to make sure that the children, and they were Head Start children, were getting the education that they deserved to get, that, you know, it wasn't their fault, they were in the circumstance they were in. And so part of my job was to go into the school to make sure the teachers were teaching and they had the resources, and the teachers had the knowledge that they needed to be able to teach these children. And then had the opportunity to go to the federal government, to the Office of Head Start, still doing early childhood, where I was working with programs from all over the United States in disaster recovery. And so making sure, again, that they were able to rebuild their programs. And so all of that to say, one, yes, I've been in education for a very long time. And I have seen different parts, right, of education. I've done the classroom, I've done building, I've done state, I've done local, I've done federal. So I've seen a lot of things. And I am currently still with the federal government, but I'm doing a lot of things with data and systems and processes. And so all of that can also be helpful. I think anytime we talk about anything, I want to know the numbers. Because, you know, in order to get to what the issue is and how we're going to fix it, we need to understand the root cause. And so I think that has been important, to be able to kind of drill down to, like, what is yes, here's the issue, but where does it start and how can we work backwards to kind of fix whatever needs to be fixed. I don't know if that answers
Yeah,
the
it
question.
does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Would you like to give a closing statement now?
Sure. I want to thank you all again for having me and considering me for reappointment. I do want to continue, of course, to serve on the school board because I do believe deeply in the power of public education, that it transforms lives, and I know the work is not done. Over the past 4 years, I've seen how thoughtful policy, community engagement, strong leadership can make a real difference for students and families. I'm proud of what we have accomplished, but there are still critical issues I want to help address, like, as I mentioned, getting more students interested in governor's school, and increased programming for gifted education. So I bring not only experience, but also a genuine commitment to listening, to learning, and acting in the best interest of every student. This role is not just a position, it's a responsibility I take seriously, and I'm energized to keep building on the progress we've made. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all three of you. Again, the public hearing will be May 6th. If you have someone who can't attend but still wants to speak on your behalf, they can email Ms. Connor, and that'll be read into the record. And then the appointment will be on May 13th. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
And we're adjourned at 7:55.
Wow, good job.